Building elaborate tombs for the monarchs spanned the history of ancient Egypt, a history dominated by the belief that the god king, if properly cared for, would live forever to maintain and protect his people. We're in the impressive tomb of Seti I, who ruled this land 1,200 years after the events in our story. By Seti's time, the search for safe and practical ways to care for the monarch's body and afterlife had led away from the highly visible and monumental pyramids to secret tombs cut from the solid rock of southern Egypt's Valley of the Kings. Though the tombs in the valley were built many centuries after Khufu's time, the ideas about life and death are more clearly represented in these later paintings and drawings. A tomb like this would have been filled with religious objects, gold, jewels, and furniture. Everyday items such as food, drink, and clothing would have been brought each day by priests to an offering temple. After all, Seti would need to get dressed, eat, and be entertained here, just as he had been during his life on earth. Built into the ancient Egyptian word for life was the assumption that we would each continue functioning forever. All classes believed in an afterlife, but remember, this afterlife was to be a perfect extension of life on earth. So commoners would remain commoners, and kings would still be kings. So much for upward mobility. Egyptian attitudes towards death took centuries to develop, but a key concept that remains fairly consistent throughout this culture is that of the Ka. A tomb such as this would have been home to the Ka. It was the Ka for whom the tomb was decorated, for whom food and clothing were brought, and for whom the priests served. It is hard for us to understand exactly what the Ka was. One possible translation is double. Although the Egyptians didn't think of the Ka as we think of the soul, the ideas are somewhat similar. Long before the tombs of the Valley of the Kings, burial chambers for the nobility were often provided with special rooms for Ka statues, and all tombs had doors through which the Ka could receive the food and offerings left for it. Ka statues helped reinforce the deceased's identity. In this tomb of Mereruka, a 6th dynasty royal official, the Ka statue is seen coming through the false door to receive its offering. Now, for all of these elaborate and costly rituals to do their job, that is, to sustain the dead person's existence, several things were necessary. His name had to be visible. This says, "Honored before the king, Mereruka." Then he had to have regular sustenance through offerings. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, his body had to remain not only intact, but identifiable to the Ka. This is Ramses II. Many people believe that this is the pharaoh Moses confronted in the biblical book of Exodus. Few objects in history have evoked as much fear, superstition, and wonderment as mummies. They were thought to contain all sorts of magical properties. By the 16th century, mummy was a popular drug in apothecary shops throughout Europe. Egyptian tombs were constantly being ransacked, and their long-dead inhabitants ground up to supply this strange appetite. Throughout the evolution of the mummification process, natron was used. Natron, which literally means divine salt, was a powdery silt deposited on lake beds. The application of natron to the body and its subsequent draining, drying out, and wrapping took weeks. One crucial step in the successful preservation of bodies was discovered back in the 4th dynasty, long before Ramses here, with the removal of the internal organs. These are the canopic jars that held the removed organs, which were also mummified and entombed along with the body. A separate deity protected each organ: stomach, intestines, lungs, and liver. The heart was left in the body since it was thought to contain the essence of the individual. Oh, and the brain. They didn't know what it was for, so they just threw it away. Over the centuries, mummification and burial practices became more elaborate. Coffins eventually came to resemble the individuals inside. These mummiform coffins further identified the dead, particularly the deceased king, with the god Osiris, ruler of the underworld, who was always shown wrapped as if a mummy. The Osiris legend is one of the most potent and embracing themes in Egyptian thought and culture, about a god hero who died and then lived forever in the next world. It was a story at first only connected to kingship, but later developed to offer similar hope to all Egyptians.
You see, Khafra, it is the god Osiris who causes the waters of the Nile to rise every year in their season.
As a son of the king, I have many brothers and sisters, but of all of them, the one closest to my heart is my young brother Khafra, who shares my sense of wonder of the world.
Please tell me the story of Osiris again.
Osiris was king on earth long ago. He married Isis, and their good works were widely known. His brother Seth, whose rages were like a wounded hippopotamus, became jealous and plotted against him. He killed Osiris and rent his body into many pieces. Then he threw them into the river, where the current carried them swiftly away. Oh, the wailing of Isis, who would not forsake her dead husband. But the love of Isis could not be broken. With the help of the jackal-headed Anubis, she found the pieces of Osiris, and through her own powerful magic, put him back together. And he reigned over the kingdom of the dead, where he continues to this day. Isis then sent her son Horus the falcon to avenge the treachery against his father. While he is alive on earth, the king of Egypt is Horus, the vindicated and unvanquished. And when he leaves this earth, he becomes Osiris, ruler of the kingdom beyond.
And each new king becomes Horus and maintains the delicate balance of Ma'at.
Mother, will I become Horus one day too?
I do not think so, Khafra. Your brother Kawab is first in line to be king, but I am sure your future will also be great.
Yes, I think it will be.
As the years went by, it was easy to imagine the great things his mother predicted for him.
As before my very eyes, Khafra, you have grown tall and strong.
Thank you, Father. As you recall, son of Re, 2 rooms have been cut out of the rock 15 feet below ground level and have been covered over by granite slabs. This is only one more consideration which assures that your car will be protected by the greatest structure ever built by man. At this point, we are beginning construction on the Queen's pyramids, all in a neat, even row.
Would that my queens themselves were so orderly.
Our best take yet. 3 nights running, we have not exhausted the treasure. I told you we were moving up in the world. Ninak? It was everything you said.
Relate another story to him, Jedefra. He was so impressed by the last one.
It took me weeks to learn it, Mother, and even if I tell another story, Hordedef will only tell a better one. Anyway, Kawab is my father's favorite. He is the one who will someday be the king, not I.
Nothing is impossible, my son.
I never know what to do.
Try to act the part. Even Khafra behaves more regally than you, and he has no chance compared to yours.
Great Khufu, master of the 2 lands,
My father's tomb?
The plundering of my grandfather's tomb was a matter of grave concern for the well-being of his car and the stability of Ma'at. But, like a true scholar, Uncuff learned from all he encountered.
As a result of the unfortunate occurrence at Dashur, Your Majesty, we are taking several decisive steps. First, we are moving your father's resting place to a site where he will have the best protection.
Whatever treasures and possessions were lost can be replaced, as long as his body remains intact for his car to recognize.
Quite so.
And then what of my tomb, Uncuff? It will be even more attractive to robbers than my father's.
I have studied the problem at great length, my lord, and have come up with the following solution.
It was here that Uncuff's brilliance shone forth, with a plan so innovative and daring.
Virtually every other pyramid follows the basic plan of a passageway from the north, leading directly down to the burial chamber cut out of the rock below ground, as we have already constructed here. But in this case, it will foil any tomb robbers, because we will move the location of your father's eternal resting place to the very heart of the pyramid. Huge stones will block and conceal the real entrance. And halfway up the actual passage, another corridor will divert intruders to this empty room here, leading them to believe that the tomb has already been plundered. Little will they suspect that just above the ceiling here, a grand gallery leads to the true tomb high above.
Secure in the knowledge that everything was under control, and that every imaginable detail had been attended to, my father and I left them to discuss the construction. The king could now rest easy.
Yes, but can we rest easy?
What do you mean?
Though the robbers of Sneferu's tomb were captured, and most of his treasure recovered, they had already destroyed his body.
Oh, dear.
But the king is unaware of this.
Oh, dear.
If he knew that his father's sacred car was now homeless...
Oh, say no more.
This must remain our secret for eternity.